Right, we are now live. And good morning, Bruce. So it's afternoon for us, but good morning to you. And how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a happy day for most of America,
Yeah, yeah.
for obvious reasons that your listeners will appreciate. I'm very relieved, very joyous, very celebratory last night. Actually, I'm near New York City right now in New Jersey, and just everywhere people were out eating, and it's also warm weather, so like a warm November day, and the outcome of the election is what the majority of people wanted. So it was a thrill.
Yeah. Some people feeling a bit more uplifted now, which is helpful.
At least for a day
It's
or
good for
two.
us to see in Europe because we're going more and more into lockdown in lots of different places. So it can be
Oh,
a little bit depressing with the change in weather as well.
exactly.
You know,
Well, we are too. We are too. It's spiking here
yeah.
too, and the weather has been. We've had snow already, and today
Wow.
it's nice and warm.
Yeah.
It's over 20 today, but yeah,
Maybe
nice to
it's
be
the
here.
planet itself embracing the change.
Yes, it's something.
Showing joy. So I'm really, really grateful that you chose to spend some of your Remembrance Sunday with us in the group and sharing your wisdom and your expertise. And thank you so much. I'm grateful, and I'm sure my members are grateful too. They're a lovely bunch,
Thank you.
and I'm sure they appreciate what you've got to share. So I know you've
Wonderful.
had you really embody the concept of Dharma. So Dharma was the subject that we were talking about last week, because I really truly believe you've got so many talents and gifts. I'm just reading your bio. It's like you're an actor, you're a singer, you're a writer, you're a speaker, you're a coach, you're a mentor, just working on so many different levels. But you also express those gifts in a way that really brings joy to others and upliftment to others, and you want to help serve a wider goal, wider purpose. So I think that's wonderful. And the fact that you also have worked for the HeartMath Institute, you were a founding member, I believe, some 30
Yes,
odd years ago.
exactly.
And
It was. It was.
so it was a natural progression for me to then talk about the heart, the power of the heart. And it just was a light bulb moment for me. Oh, I've heard about Bruce Cry. I've been, I've listened to what you've had to share in another group. So I was part of the European Transformational Teachers Gathering earlier this year. I also had the HeartMath Institute work has been mentioned to me as part of my training as a mentor, as an energy alignment method mentor.
Mm-hmm.
So I started getting more and more engaged in this work and this topic, and I think you will be a marvelous speaker and share lots of wonderful things about the power of the heart. The heart not just as a physical entity or organ, but
Yes.
very much as an energy center. So I won't say any more. So I'll let you take the reins now and take over and explain a little bit more about your background, your history, what makes you feel that you're in, an authority really on this subject.
Yeah. Thank you. And again, what a delight to be here. And well, I got interested in the heart in the late 80s, I think, because I met the founder of HeartMath, which did not yet exist when I was getting interested. And, I had this idea, like many people kind of my generation that were going through the peace love movements of the 60s and whatnot, that we were undervaluing love in culture, in civilization, in society, in business. And so I was kind of on that track that why aren't we more loving with each other, And in meeting the founder, one of the questions I had for him was, how do I know when I'm in my heart? That expression, be in your heart, or follow your heart, or play with your heart, or sing with your heart. How do you know when you're doing that? And his answer to me that night out in the woods around a campfire was, it feels like appreciation. And I thought, interesting way to say it. It feels like appreciation, because I can relate a lot to the feeling of appreciation. I'm an appreciator of nature. This morning I got up early and there was a sunrise coming up over Manhattan, and I was sitting outside meditating, and wow, look at the nature. And the grass was so green, because there must have been a lot of rain around here. And the fall colors are still like crazy beautiful. And so I can relate to appreciation very deeply. And when he said that being in the heart feels like appreciation, I began to realize, okay, well, if I just keep on appreciating, that may unfold new understanding. And then 2 years or so later, 3 years maybe, is when the HeartMath Institute was founded. And one of the realizations of why it was created really was this idea that back a couple hundred years ago, primarily in the West, we had lost a reverence for the heart. In every civilization, every spiritual tradition, the heart was revered as a source of courage, of wisdom, of intuition, of faith, of compassion, of trust. So many qualities we aspire to, of bravery, et cetera, Braveheart. So many examples. And yet, starting around the time of Descartes, science was into the amazingness of machines. And so the view of the heart was it's an incredible machine. So think of it like as it's a machine. Well, but what about the other aspects, the energy of the heart, the energy center of the heart? And that was like, oh, no, that's mystics, that's old-fashioned ideas. It's a fantastic machine. And of course, it is a fantastic machine, but it is so much more than that. And so we set out to understand, HeartMath did, from a modern day scientific perspective, what we could prove about the energy of the heart, about the energetic power of the heart, about the intelligence of the heart, about all these terms that we felt could be validated potentially scientifically in how powerful the heart truly is. And so we began a journey back in around 1991, our research team, to begin to try to understand and explore what was really going on in the heart beyond the really old-fashioned idea that it was just a fantastic machine, just a pump, an amazing pump. We need it. It's super important, but just a pump. And we began to discover all kinds of things about what the power of the heart truly was. And first, on a sort of mechanical level, the heart produces by far the strongest electrical and by far the strongest magnetic signal in the human body. So the heart's producing an electrical signal every time it contracts and beats that is 60 times stronger in amplitude, the size of the wave that's sending out from the heart, 60 times stronger than anything put out by the brain. That statistic alone was like, what? So but anatomically, the heart's the power center. It just is. Electrically, it's the dominant power system in the body by far. The brain's a tiny fraction of it. Other centers, there's electricity produced throughout, but the heart's the main generator. It's like the main power plant in the body, unquestionably, from modern day science tells us that. Magnetically, the heart's even stronger than 60 times bigger than the brain. It's like 100 times or more, the magnetic aspect. And now we're talking about dimensions electromagnetic that you can sense, because you can, back to the thought about appreciation. If you are around someone who is genuinely appreciating you for something, you can feel that, right? Definitely. I mean, it's a feeling in the heart, like, oh my God. I met somebody recently who's an extremely grateful person, and just on a regular basis, she's complimenting me and being grateful for something I've said or something I've done, and I'm just going, wow, you're awesome. Whatever about what you're saying, just to be able to be in such a grateful state. So that's our experience of life, right? You can have a terrible day, and then somebody genuinely appreciates you and say, Esther, amazing job you did in that Facebook Live the other day. That was just really wonderful. And that can just completely change our mood, right? In no time, completely. If something kind of relaxes or releases or opens or expands, whatever the feeling may be, but that's all very real, right? And so that's a lot of what HeartMath wanted to explore, is let's learn more about that. It's electrical, it's magnetic, but there's this energetic dimension to it as well. The whole energy center idea that's been around for that probably tens of thousands of years. That's also true, and even if we just think of the electromagnetic part itself, science has been able to prove that you can measure easily with equipment found in any hospital in the world. You can measure the heartbeat several feet away from the body.
Wow. So
the heartbeat is so strong, it's not only being radiated to every single cell in our body, including the brain, including everywhere, big toe, anything, but it also passes through the skin, because electrical signals, electrical waves, do not see barriers of skin. It keeps on going. So you can measure the electrical and magnetic components several feet away from the body. It probably goes even farther, probably way farther, probably
Because I've heard it's 20 feet. Is that being
Well,
proven, or is it just
what's proven with
a number somebody's picked out?
Well, things sometimes is like the telephone game. You know, it's
Yeah.
the data is it's easy to measure it 3 or 4 feet away. How far it really goes, that means easy with standard hospital equipment, not highly tuned sensitive equipment that could maybe pick it up much farther. So the safe thing to say, the mainstream, no doctor could argue with this based on the type of equipment used, is it can be measured several feet away, no question. Now, what we also learned though is that if you are in a coherent, what we call a coherent state, i.e. loving or appreciative or peaceful, the electrical signal your heart is putting out is different. I mean, it feels different. Imagine if you were feeling frustrated, what that's feeling like, or what that's looking like, that's going out from your body, kind of chaotic, kind of disordered, etc. But when we're in a coherent or loving or peaceful or appreciative state, the literal waves of the heart become this smooth pattern going out from the heart, because our emotions are different. And so that means the signal can go farther. So how far it goes when we're really in a coherent wave could easily be 20 feet. It could easily be infinite. There's probably dimensional aspects to this that aren't limited by distance or normal time and space. So we began to learn that in the early 90s, and that's interesting, but it makes sense, because when you think about it, like in the example before, if somebody's like right there with you and giving you an appreciative comment about something, you feel something and you feel them, and it's nice to be around that person, right? And the opposite can also be true. You're physically close to somebody that's frustrated or angry, and it's like, whoa, you feel the energy, whether they're even saying anything or not. So from all these different angles, HeartMath in the early 90s was figuring out that the heart's extremely intelligent. It's extremely powerful in ways that science is just beginning to understand. Now it's much more known and much more accepted. Back in the early 90s, it wasn't believed for the most part. Spiritual people believed it. Chinese medicine people believed it. People of Hindu totally believed it. Buddhists believed it. Western doctors were like a couple thousand years behind, thinking they were ahead.
It's only in the early 1900s where they thought, they established there was a mind-body connect, wasn't it, really? That's quite late.
Yeah. Exactly. So that was part of the journey of understanding the power of the heart, is that we already intuitively know this, because as parents, your kid's out on the soccer field and he's having a rough game, and you try to boost his spirits and inspire him and give him some hope and say, go back out there and just play with your heart. Or a tentative young singer, has a wonderful voice, but they're afraid of the recital they have to sing. And the teacher says, you know what, Esther, just go out there and sing with your heart. Well, so these expressions, I mean, here in the US, American football is the huge enterprise. And the people that play it are massive humans. I mean, they're absolutely massive, 350-pound, 6'7" humans, and a lot of them, and they're all quite scary and all incredibly strong, and they're basically killing each other. And at the same time, the team that wins the game, especially if it's been a close game and one team comes from behind and wins, so often the coach of these massive warriors will say, I love my guys. My guys played with so much heart today. They just wouldn't give up. Their hearts were just right on the line there. So we have kind of all these examples, and many, many more in culture, even in sport, where we understand there's a power of the heart beyond just what science wants to tell us it's a pump. And so HeartMath said, there's got to be something to this. This can't just be old wives' tales, as the expression goes. And so, as I said, it step by step over the years, it's one thing after another has just proven the case stronger and stronger. And that there is an undeniable power in the heart, and that when we can I used the word coherent before, that when we can be in a more positive emotional state, which people on this call who know the energy alignment method, Yvette Taylor and Lisa Hammond's wonderful process, that helps us to get more coherent, meaning the heart gets into this rhythm that is much more smooth and much more efficient. You feel better because you're in flow. So the heart's responding to that feeling of flow. And then just so many things can improve. And so it just became more and more obvious that this combination of being able to validate that scientifically, to be able to measure it. HeartMath developed, starting 21 years ago, a series of technologies that are basically biofeedback type technologies. So you're able to measure in real time what's happening in your heart in these rhythms. And you can see on the screen when you're frustrated, it's going like that.
Erratic.
And when you're exactly, it looks kind of like an earthquake. On the other hand, when you are loving someone, when you're appreciative, when you're just enjoying the memory of what a beautiful night it was last night, or whatever, those emotions allow the heart to go into this smooth rhythm. And then the field of the heart becomes more coherent. And so you, as you walk through life, are more coherent. And so people, it's not like everybody just bows down before you. Oh my God, Esther, you're so coherent today. What are you doing? They're not necessarily going to notice. They may be caught up in their world. That's okay. But your whole system is improving. And so the coherence in the heart, we discovered early on, enables more coherence to happen in the brain. And that evidence got stronger and stronger. And then Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I'm sure most of your audience is very familiar with, and he's a dear friend of mine, and we met through HeartMath many years ago. He is extremely involved with HeartMath now, because as his work has evolved over the years, he has realized that this heart coherence idea that HeartMath's been talking about since the early 90s is real. And that if he can help people get into heart coherence, which he's now doing in his workshops and his talks and his meditations, that makes it easier for their brains to become coherent too. And then for his work to become even more effective, the work that he does around neural patterning and creating your future and getting into the quantum field, all the stuff that Joe is famous for, is facilitated by the ability to get into this heart coherent state first, because the heart is the power center. It is 60 times stronger electrically, 100 or more times stronger magnetically than the brain. So if you want the brain to really hum and really at its best, and for you to be as clear and as performing as well and as communicative as you want to be, get in the heart, that main power plant, which is also so associated with our feelings too, get that all aligned. Well, it's so much easier for the brain to then be able to be maximal, optimal, performing optimally.
So presumably this is what you incorporate into your coaching, both in businesses as well, to get their heart in coherence.
Absolutely.
So because it allows for greater clarity,
absolutely,
plasticity in the brain.
Absolutely. And I can't understate the importance of the technology in demonstrating this, because when I was the first time I ever did a program in the UK, actually, it was actually in Bath in the UK, like the most picturesque town practically in the entire country that I've seen. And I pulled out some technology that was medical technology. We hadn't created our own yet, and hooked somebody up live in front of the room of 25 senior executives and consultants, a very high level group at the Bath Spa Hotel. And somebody came up who was also, I think, a marathon runner, so highly fit and a high level consultant, psychologist, I think it was. And there was a demonstration. I just asked her to think about something that had frustrated her. And there the pattern went like an earthquake. It was just crazy, just thinking about something that frustrated her. And then I coached her using the breathing that HeartMath uses. It's just this kind of steady 5-second breath, about 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. And then coached her into find something that you love. Find some memory that is wonderful, where you're skiing and you just feel, the freedom of that. Or you're sitting watching the sunset. Or you're horsing around with your kids and just enjoying the playfulness of that. So just remember the feeling as you breathe. And I did that, and her whole pattern just became completely different than how it had been. Instead of all chaotic, it was super smooth. And everyone in that room said, that just happened. That was not subtle. And so this is the power of the technology to validate this idea, because the idea sounds sweet. The idea sounds very spiritual. If you just get more in your heart, everything will work better. It sounds a bit too like a platitude. But then you see the scientific evidence of somebody who's never done this before, the person I picked up from the audience who was a volunteer, that, oh my God, that just happened. So we saw that time and time again. So to your point, are we using this in business? That led to a contract with Unilever and a contract with Shell in the UK. And we were off and running, and many, many organizations, huge organizations to this day. I've been teaching these ideas at Stanford University for 24 years. HeartMath has been offered in various parts of Stanford for 24 years now. Stanford, of course, now I think the third highest rated university in the world, behind only Cambridge and Oxford. You guys have to stay ahead of us, but we're coming up.
We always have to be one up.
Stanford's younger, more nimble. Anyway, Stanford has the business school, the School of Medicine is where these programs have been offered for 24 years. So now the validation of this is very well established. It's not just some ex-hippies turned researchers from California, or whatever the assumption might be. So yeah, so it's been an exciting process, really, and this, I can't underestimate or understate the value that the scientific evidence and the scientific demonstration is for this. Now, HeartMath has this app called Inner Balance, which is for the iPhone or for Android or whatever. Inner Balance, and you need a sensor to go with it. So the app is free, but you have to get a sensor that hooks to your ear, and it picks up your pulse through the sensor. And hundreds of thousands of people have downloaded this now, because now your phone cannot just be a source of stress and worry and alerts driving you crazy. It can actually be a source
of heart coherence.
Of heart coherence, absolutely. And so the way to generate that is not that hard. It's the breathing. It's focusing on positive feelings, and it's not that hard. It's not that tricky. It's a skill like anything else. So just like when you first got on a bicycle, you weren't expert enough to do the Tour de France. But as you got better, you could at least ride around your neighborhood and have an incredible time. Well, with this heart coherence idea, at first it can seem a little, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing here, like anything. But then as you practice, and the practice is just simply involving breathing and engaging positive, warm feelings, well, that sounds pretty good to me. You mean practicing means feeling appreciation? I think I can try that. How hard can that be? So it's fun. It's a fun process to help people through that.
Brilliant. And so obviously there are manifold benefits of being in heart coherence. So you personally benefit, haven't you, by physiologically as well as psychologically. So it gives you more resilience, but it also helps keep you in a healthier state. Totally,
absolutely, and the reason is that it's a lot of things are happening when you are in a more coherent state, and coherence being equated to positive emotion. So keep that in mind. So part of what HeartMath learned in the early 90s was that every time a stressful feeling gets triggered by seeing an alert on your phone, seeing the name of somebody show up in your inbox, seeing something on the news, looking at your watch and thinking, oh my God, I'm running late. I'm not going to get that thing done in time. Any of these moments, somebody makes a strange comment during a meeting, on Zoom, whatever it is. It could be anything. That moment where you feel triggered and you have a moment of defensiveness or anger or shock or whatever it is a discrete biological process starting in your body. That moment of is like pushing the on button, saying, this is a threat. I need to protect myself. And the body kicks in gear to fight the threat. And what kicks in gear means is generating around 1,400 different biochemicals that you need to actually fight the threat. Of course, the fact that the threat is an alert on your phone, or the threat is the name of somebody in your inbox, it's not an actual threat, but your body is producing 1,400 biochemicals to deal with that threat, that fight, flight, freeze reaction that we've heard of. And so all that's happening in your body when you are in the stress mode, the defense, fight, flight mode. When you're in a positive mode and you're able to get to a state of appreciation, a state of playfulness, a state of gratitude, that produces a very different biochemical response in your body compared to getting triggered by stress. So the moment you start to feel appreciation because of an unexpected compliment. As I told you when we spoke the other day, that I had noticed you on that Facebook call with Ava Andrea, because you seemed particularly delighted. There was something about the look in your eye that you seemed delighted. Now, I don't know how you felt when I said that. That was probably a surprise because you would have had no way.
It was a surprise. I had no awareness, no.
Of course, how would you? And I mean, it wasn't like I was looking at you the whole time. There were 30 people on the Zoom. Yeah. There was plenty of people, but I kept kind of noticing that this woman looks really intrigued. There's something that's like light bulb going off for her or something. I just kind of noticed it. So when I said that, it probably was like, wow, that's kind of neat. Well, in that moment, when that happened, very likely a chain of biochemicals were being pushed. The on button was being pushed for a whole different process in your body, which was like delight, like wow, or maybe slightly embarrassed, whatever it was. But if it was positive, it's a different set of around 1,400 biochemicals, but a whole different bunch. So instead of the cortisol, which is the stress hormone that you need for fighting, the adrenaline that gets produced, but you need for fighting, those aren't getting produced. Now you're producing endorphins and DHEA. DHEA, also called the vitality hormone or the anti-aging hormone. So whenever we're feeling wonderful and seeing a cat that we love, or there was this thing that I saw on Facebook the other day. It was one of the most charming stories and photos I'd ever seen. They're called donkey nannies. Donkey nannies. So high in the mountains in Italy, in I think it's in spring, the little lambs have to come down the hills, down towards the valley. But the little ones that have just been born are not strong enough to do this. So the shepherds literally create this sack over the donkey with these little pouches, and there's like one lamb per pouch. And so they call them donkey nannies, because as they make the way, the big sheep can make the trip just fine, but the little lambs can't walk strong enough yet. So they're literally being carried in these little pouches on the back of donkeys, and they're called donkey nannies. And I put this out there because I'd seen it somewhere. I think my daughter may have shared it with me, and it was just so charming and just like, how sweet is that? Donkey nannies. So meaning a moment like that is a positive feeling. And so when which also produces the more coherent heart wave, which also produces the kinds of biochemicals that keep us younger, that keep our brain more alert, that give us energy and vitality. A very different set than we're producing when we get triggered by that alert or that comment that somebody made, or feeling time pressure, to feeling overwhelmed, or feeling of the thought of, winter is coming, and we're all facing the potential, it's already happening, of more lockdown, of more restriction. The thoughts of that causing that same reaction. So as humans, we're kind of going back and forth. And unfortunately, in COVID times, since March, whenever a lot of us were starting to deal with this in a big way, since then, it's been an awful lot of the left-hand side, an awful lot of this in stress all the time, right? And that's why I was kind of highlighting there's a lot of celebration in this country right now, but remembering that almost half are not celebrating at all. They're angry. They believe the election was stolen. There's zero evidence for that, but they don't want to accept this outcome. The other half is like, oh, thank God. Oh my God, what a relief. So we got heart coherence on one side, we got stress and frustration on the other. And so that's our life. And so we have a choice, is the good news. We have a choice of being as rough as life can be, and especially when things are beyond our choice, like a lockdown, like all the restrictions that we're having to deal with. It can feel like life is completely out of our control. And then we have to remind ourselves, okay, what about Viktor Frankl, the marvelous story of the Holocaust survivor who had these amazing spiritual awakenings of, I still have choice in how I respond to this moment. Yes, everything else is not my choice, but I still have choice over my thoughts and how I respond moment by moment, my feelings. Absolutely. That never is taken away from me. So that realization kind of combined with some of the science of, wow, when you do that, even when you try to get into appreciative state, when you were feeling worried and fearful and everything else, find anything that you still in this moment can appreciate. I'm still alive, still breathing.
And we all can.
Exactly.
Just the fact that we're breathing, that even if we've got some physical disability or ailment, we can still appreciate what we have.
Exactly.
And focus on the positives, the people in our lives, the people we can make an impact on as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So is it true that there is a, sorry, I got a bit this echo in my ears. It's really confusing. But is it true that, so spiritually, when we have coherence, we can also uplift other people that are in a lower coherent state or less coherent? Can we impact those through an electromagnetic field?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think this is another case where our own life experience would say that's true. That, in other words, you can just be around somebody who's in a great mood and you feel like, God, it was so good talking to you. I feel so much better having just talked to you. So we've had this experience, or you can go to a movie and it's just such a heartwarming movie and you're just swept away and your bad mood has gone away. And it's gone away usually because there's something loving, something warm-hearted, something compassionate that you're feeling. So sure, it was the movie that was sort of trying to get you to feel that, but you're feeling it. And so we already have the evidence that we can be affected by other people's better mood, better, higher state. So the answer is absolutely true. Now you still have to, so you can be in the presence of somebody really coherent and they can bring out the best in you. And you still have to do the work to be able to sustain that, because if you are truly uplifted, which is happening all the time. Again, I think people's own experiences, they've had any number of experiences in their life where someone did a talk, someone did a sermon, someone sang a song, somebody was in the state and you can't help but feel better. So we've had this, right? It's not new. HeartMath certainly didn't create it. So but the reason, the scientific angle, which is why you're bringing this up, is yes, there is this field effect. There's unseen energy that's coming out from a human who is feeling inspired to play that music or to give that speech or whatever, and so we can move into that, and it's not automatic. That could be the most beautiful symphony in the world, but you could hate it, and it doesn't matter that it's being played beautifully. You could still hate it. Somebody could give the most inspired speech in the world and everybody but you could relate to it for some reason. So it's not a guarantee. Being in a coherent state doesn't mean everybody automatically kind of has to magnetize to it or something, or lift up to it. If people are open, yes, they will. So if somebody gives you a compliment and you don't reject it, you don't just throw it, oh, no, I'm not good enough to accept that compliment. Well, then you won't be uplifted. But if you allow yourself to accept the compliment, the vibration or the frequency that they're giving it from, you will be uplifted. And if you want to keep referring back to that throughout your day because you got a rough day, that's a good idea, because then you can kind of lift yourself back up each time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah. So, and that's why we need to be more mindful of the way we talk to ourselves too, isn't it? Because if we're continually knocking ourselves, yeah.
Especially that, because we're talking to ourselves, especially in the lockdown kind of thing, more than anybody else, and we're not even around very many other people physically in general. I mean, we're on Zoom with them, but that's really different than being in the same room, as you know. So being more and more conscious of those moments where the mood dips and the negative self-talk kind of brings the energy down a bit. I mean, it's easy to have that with all the things that we can be worried about, right? So we're not bad for having that happen, not at all. So we shouldn't judge ourselves for the worries that we have, the dread we have of the future. Don't judge yourself for that. It's normal. It's what humanity's going through. Never in history that I'm aware of has all of humanity had so many things to worry about at the same time. The same, it's one thing to have in your country facing a natural disaster, but like this pandemic thing, the whole world, basically. Yeah. So big challenge.
So the way to overcome it is that always connect to appreciation, however small, and in your life, and also do the heart breathing. So the heart coherence sort of methodology that the HeartMath Institute recommend. So certain practices that we can use to
Absolutely.
overcome this sort of overcome the negativity that's going on around us. You know, even if we do a lot for the yeah, understanding that it is all negative, and but yeah, just to
Yeah.
distance ourselves a bit.
Well, one of the things that I learned, I don't know if you know this about my background, but I went through cancer about 11 years ago, surgery for cancer. So I'm coming up on in December 23rd, I will be 11 years cancer free. So I went through that, but then I also went through staph infections in the treatment for the cancer, and then that got resolved. So I'm now a little more than 10 years staph infection free. It got into my blood, which is life threatening. But then I had to have both hips replaced because they'd been bothering me for years, and now they were getting worse and worse with everything else I was dealing with. And but one of the things that emerged after that was the recognition that I needed to really do what made my heart sing. That in some aspects, my life, my job, I was CEO of HeartMath at the time, a very fulfilling job in many ways, but it wasn't giving me creative outlets. And I'm a creative guy. I have been a singer, actor. I am a writer. I am a photographer. And if I wasn't doing enough creative things, my heart didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel fulfilled. And so I began to realize that if I could awaken my own heart, what made my heart sing, which I started to do because I started singing again. And then after the hip surgeries, about 6 months later, somebody invited me to this dance thing called Five Rhythms. And they were describing a 2-hour nonstop dance, free flow. And I said to the guy, what part of double hip replacement did you miss? There's no way I can do 2 hours of nonstop dance. Dude, what are you thinking? And anyway, I tried it anyway, and I fell in love with it, and it became a huge part of my rehab and my healing, actually, was dancing freestyle. So my point being, the more we can kind of honor what really makes our heart sing, whatever that is, whether that's singing, whether that's dancing, whether that's gardening, whether that's journaling, whether that's writing poetry, whether that's just getting out in the sunshine whenever we have it and just breathe it in and do it. We need to do that in these times. We need to just really make an effort. What makes my heart sing? And I listen to way more music now, even than I was. And I've been into music for almost 60 years. I'm listening to even more because I love so many styles of music that sometimes just the right piece of music will just completely lift my spirits especially pre-election, when I was hearing another negative report about our president. I think, oh my God, how can it get any worse? And it was so easy to just go down, down, down. And I think I got to get myself back up. I can't afford to do this. And so I would pick music, or I would take a walk outside, or I'd just sit in the sunshine for a little while and just like, yes, yes. So we have to do things for our own survival, but beyond that, to thrive, to find the things and do them that make our heart sing. Yeah. And so yes, breathing through the heart, focusing on positive feelings. That's something you can do before a phone call. That's something you can do in a minute. You don't have to spend 20 minutes or anything. That's like a wonderful practice anytime through your day. I do it every single morning as part of a longer meditation. But paying attention to what makes your heart sing is a big one, because when you are doing, you could have the worst job in the world, or you think so, or at least aspects of the job that are really rough. But if you're doing something that makes your heart sing, there's that extra energy, like there's a halo around that part of your life, which bleeds into the parts that are really hard.
Yeah.
I'll give you a very specific example. So 4 months ago, I was appointed president of a small university here in the States. It's called the Coherent Institute for Holistic Studies. And it's a marvelous school, been around over 20 years, doing very advanced, beautiful work, teaching and offering master's degrees and other certificates in a variety of holistic studies, from integrative health to learning and thinking, to consciousness studies and transpersonal psychology, to organizational leadership, to creative writing and storytelling. So all these different programs, they're really lovely and really needed at a time like this. When I came in to the organization, number one, it's still completely virtual because of COVID. So I've not met 2/3 of the staff, and I've been the president for 4 months. I've seen them on Zoom. In some cases, many times on Zoom, and we've physically never met. That's a challenge, to take over the leadership of an organization that is complex, it's academic, we're accredited, we have the state that tells us what we can do, what we can't do. And about a month and a half ago, I realized that a project had been started to redo our website, but never finished. And I've been involved in many website redesigns, and I thought, this has to get finished. We need the uplift that'll come when we have a brand new, exciting, dynamic website. Luckily, I have a team of people that I'd worked with before the Institute that I knew I could bring in, and they're amazing, and it would just be, it would create a great result. But for me personally, dealing with some strain, some real challenge in taking on this role and always being virtual, which kind of drives me crazy. I'm a people person. I'm a hugger. And not only can I not hug anybody, I can't even see most of them in person. So for me, the idea of redoing the website was also a fun project for me. It makes my heart sing to be involved in something like that, to take all this wonderful material of this wonderful institute and be able to reshape it and represent it and make it look better, and make it look more alive and more vital. It's almost finished. Everyone who's seen it is like, wow, what a difference. They're just stunned. But for me, having this project, even though it's meant 5:30 a.m. calls with my Swiss designer, my brilliant designer for the whole project, darn her, she moved to Switzerland, so 6-hour time difference. On the other hand, we're getting an amazing outcome, and I'm on WhatsApp with her at 5:30 every morning. So, but the fun of doing this and the fulfillment of seeing the outcome is getting better and better, and people loving it has had this, like I'm saying, I'm calling kind of like a halo effect, so that some of the other parts of my job that are more challenging or more tricky or more sensitive, I have this thing that's really fun that we're doing, and we're making great progress. So that has that effect. So that's why I tell people, the problem isn't necessarily you have to quit your job because you're unsatisfied. Is that you're not paying attention to what makes your heart sing. Mm-hmm. And what makes my heart sing is working with a team of people. In this case, 2 I've worked with for years. We know each other very well. They know me very well. And working together on a project that we can do fairly quickly, and it's already gorgeous. Mm-hmm. And so that's making my heart sing and making it easier with some of the things that are more challenging. So that's a really important key, because England facing a lockdown. I don't know if people are other European countries the same. It's happening, and hopefully it won't be as severe. At least we've gone through it. At least we kind of know what to expect, as opposed to the first time. And hopefully we can be patient with the whole process and try to avoid the conspiracy theories and try to avoid all the added negativity that can surround all this stuff. And just try to stay as balanced as we can in it, but to continue to find things that make our heart sing. Yeah. And which is why this whole thing and how we connected was because of this creativity work that I've been doing. So in the aftermath of all the health problems, I did start to express through music, through dance again. And I really discovered that I was a decent photographer, thanks to iPhones and having cancer, that I could actually keep myself a little bit inspired by taking photos randomly of what was around my house or the beauty outside or whatever. And then that blossomed into more and more and more. And so after several years of kind of noticing this, I was just kind of developing, and like I felt alive again, but more alive in some ways than ever. Like I was really wanting to learn, really curious about life, and really stunned by the beauty of a sunrise or the beauty of a autumn leaf or whatever. It's wow, it's really feel it way more than I used to. And I thought, people are feeling this. People are feeling me differently. Like, wow, man, you've gone through quite a renaissance. You got healed from all that stuff, and this more creative aspect of your life is like on fire. And I approached Stanford, and because I'd already been working there for over 20 years, and I said, I would like to propose that we do a course on creativity for well-being. That when we are doing things creatively that we love, it makes life look and feel a whole lot different, right? So they said, yes. How quick can you have it done? And literally, I get it done in like record time for them. That normally takes 6 months, and in this case, 3 months later, I was teaching it. And that became a whole process, and now it's online because that's the only choice. But Creativity Unleashed is the name of it now, and I love it because I'm helping people believe in and develop their own innate creativity. And I know, it's not a belief, I know that every human being has way more creativity than they know. They aren't necessarily ever going to be artistic or be professional artists, but artistry is not the definition of creativity. Right now, we're having a creative conversation, you and I. I'm not working from a script. And you had some things you had in mind to ask me, and maybe you have.
They never showed.
But you probably are more like responding to things I'm saying, and you're coming up with the next thing. So we are creating as we go, right?
Yeah.
We are. And every moment is like that, unless we're stuck in our mind and stuck in preoccupations and worries and all, in which case we're probably just doing things by rote. But we have the opportunity literally to create every moment. But my assertion is, if we are designed with the power to create another life, how can you tell me you're not creative? That's pretty fundamental. You have the power to create another human being, and yet you want to tell me you're not creative because somebody told you not to sing when you were a kid, or told you don't be messing around with art, Esther. The family, we're accountants. the family does. We're doctors. You do your creative stuff when you're retired, but don't think it'll distract you from the career you need to do. Terrible advice. Terrible advice. If you're not a whole person expressing all of what you do, even if that's not going to be your main thing, then you're not the whole person. And then how can you be as fulfilled as you want? You always know that something's missing.
Yeah. Creative is being messy too, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've seen it with the little kids with the paintbrushes.
Exactly.
They have no inhibitions, do they? And they just let their creativity flow.
They do, and we want them to do that. And then at a certain point, we start telling them, "Well, actually, you don't want to keep doing that. You need it." That was appropriate. That was age appropriate. You don't want paint all over the kitchen or on the walls. Right.
But
even just the spirit that wants to create and be playful, we start to, after a certain age. Well, it's not even just after a certain age. I mean, even throughout childhood, all the moments. I remember one time I was coming back from Cancun in the airport, going through the security line. And there was a young family with two kids, I think, and one of the daughters was singing like little Disney songs, and it was totally charming and cute and was not disruptive at all. I thought it was like the best thing in ever, standing in a security line. please keep them coming. And the mother was so nasty to the little girl. I mean, not just like embarrassed, like sometimes moms can be because it's being disruptive to people in the restaurant or whatever. But no, this was like a security line. It's not like we're having in-depth conversations here. We're all bored. A little bit of levity would be lovely. Is a child singing Disney songs? Please. And she's like, didn't do anything physical, but like grabbing her, you have to stop. Why? Why does she have to stop? Why? So a lot of people had that. And in one way or another, we're discouraged from expressing that part that wants to contribute and wants to be playful and wants to just be. And I think that many of the people that are most successful in life have accepted that is who they are. And it wasn't something you were supposed to lose as you got older. Not at all. Mm-hmm. Society tried to tell us that because we had to start fitting into roles, because kind of society was getting more organized, factory jobs and whatever, more fit in compartments and less freedom to express who you wanted to be. But to me, we're at a time now, it is everything is so uncertain. Well, then what can we be certain of? Myself. I need to keep growing. I need to keep developing. Every moment I have a choice. So to me, it's like an incredible opportunity presented by COVID in a way to say, what do I want to create with my life? And I'm hearing a lot of people already, totally independent of this conversation, saying this lockdown, this working from home all the time, I've loved it in one hand. It's been hard, but I'm realizing there's a whole other side of me that I'm longing to express and experience again. So to me, that's of huge potential that is untapped in most people on planet Earth. So when we think about how incredibly daunting so many of the problems are, I mean, the sober reality here in America is we are the most divided we have been since our own Civil War. And so as elated as more than half the country is, the other half is completely opposite today. And that's not going away because we have a new president that a little more than half voted for. We have massive problems. Well, and so does the whole world. It's not just about the US, the whole world. Thank God we're going to get back on board with climate change and back on board with WHO. I mean, all the shocking things that he did. But that's just pointing out how severe the whole world's many of the problems are. However, if you accept the idea that like almost all of us, and myself included, are not operating on full creative expression. And again, creative expression not being painting or writing or dancing or singing, but using our creative energy that's in us, designed in our DNA, that can make any moment a creative moment and see opportunity in anything. That we're not doing because we're operating in a fear, out of dread, out of worry. Totally understandable. And there'll be no Thanksgiving in my family this year because my cousins who usually put this on, my one cousin's in his 80s and his wife's in her 70s. And as much as they love the 35 people that come to the house every year, too risky. And that's hard, the thought that, you know, there's no family gathering. And I'm 3,000 miles away from my immediate family, my daughter and my other brother here that's a few hundred miles away. He's immunocompromised, so doesn't really want to see anybody, even his beloved younger brother. We are very, very, very close, and I can't see him. You know, so this is the reality. So that could be a real downer. Thanksgiving is one of the biggest of all U.S. holidays, and a lot of people will not be able to be spending it with family, and that's hard.
So how do we overcome those challenges? So in terms of maintaining heart coherence.
Well, so one thing, and when I was talking to one of my cousins yesterday who would have been at that family gathering, I said, well, because he and his daughters are probably going to get together in their home and still try to kind of socially distance. They're close family, so they're going to still do that small gathering. But I said, let's do a Zoom thing. I want to see you guys. I love you guys. I love your daughters. I love their kids. I will definitely miss not seeing Erica and Raji and everybody. So let's at least do a Zoom, so at least we can see each other and say hi and feel the love. And I haven't decided what I'm gonna do actually, because I don't have a whole lot of options other than going out to a restaurant or. It just feels strange because it's in this country it's such a tradition of families gathering and all that. Yeah. But I'll figure it out. I mean, there'll be something. It could be amazing hike I'll do, or who knows. So it's a creative challenge at a time when, you know, you're kind of longing for more human connection. And I mean, we are, and I'm sure you are in the UK as well. So it's a creative opportunity. Who knows what could happen? It could happen.
Yeah. And I understand you've got a new program out now, which is delivered via Zoom. Is it?
Thanks to Stanford, I was living in California, close to Stanford for years, and then I moved back east to the New York area 3 years ago, and I was still traveling back and forth to Stanford twice a year to teach. I'd go out there for a couple of weeks at a time, and then when COVID happened, first they were going to just shut down the program that I was teaching in completely, and then they decided to do it virtually. And I had just done my first virtual creativity, this particular creativity course. I'd just done it virtually to check, and I've been teaching HeartMath online for a while. So anyway, yes, it evolved into an online course, having been initially created for Stanford, and it's called Creativity Unleashed. It starts on November 17th, and I can send you the link that you could maybe post.
You have got a limited number of places, I think.
Yes, we have a limited number of places because it's high touch. Everybody gets a chance to do homework around photography as an exercise for exploring their creativity. There's creative writing, there's dance, there's meditation, and then there's also creating a project, an actual project that you work on, and then present. So it's very much sharing, and it kind of community is forming, a tribe is forming. And but I will give to you the link and to post, because This is the favorite program I have ever led, not just because I created it, but it's the most fun to watch people's hearts come alive and can see in themselves, like, I am a creative person after all. It's amazing how many people tell themselves, I'm not a creative person, and they feel terrible about that. So, their brother is the artist, or their sister's the cellist, or their mother was a beautiful seamstress, or costume, whatever, but I didn't get that. And they feel terrible about themselves. And then they discover, wait a minute, he's saying something different. He's saying we all have creative energy. We just got to awaken it and see the ways we can uniquely express it. It may never be public, but you can still have that childlike, I can turn this problem into a creative opportunity. That was my mother. I was channeling my mother right then. My mother had that energy, and I loved her so much. She left us about 9 years ago. But she had that. She never lost that playfulness, like, we can figure this out. And she was actually an amazing artist, but the energy of playfulness in her was what I especially remember and miss. And so we all have that. We all have
a responsibility to find that.
Yeah, and
playfulness
it's amazing. And it's a wonderful opportunity. At first, it can feel like, you're really asking us to get playful. I'm not supposed to. It's hard. We're British. It's don't you know the weather here? Don't you know we lost the empire? Whatever. But as people start to kind of let loose, and one of the things that I do in the class that people absolutely love is every session there'll be 4 2-hour sessions over 4 weeks. Every time we do a 15-minute exercise, which is part guided meditation, heart meditation, and part movement. So I guide them through this live meditation, kind of getting to a point of coherence and stillness, and just feeling love and gratitude. And then, so they're very still, and the body's very quiet, and they're very aware. And then it gets quiet. There's no music for a while, and then a new music track starts. And the idea is that in this music that's starting now, people are going to have an opportunity to experience the awakening of this creative energy that's in all of us as movement. So basically, I'm going to guide them through a movement process that's spontaneous. It's not like you're learning a dance, nothing like that. But the movement process is feeling like this creative energy is really something that's in you. It really is. I'm not making this up. It really is. Just go with me. If you can't believe it, just go with me. Try it for a few times. And so we get moving, and the music is really fun, and it's got a good rhythm, and I kind of coax them into different types of movements from time to time, so they're getting outside of themselves, especially outside of themselves, because most of us are on Zoom many hours a day, feeling very straight, just feeling very kind of boring, from the chest up, rigid. So I say, you can turn the camera off if you want, clear the area around your computer, and because you may want to move a little bit while we do this. And they come back after this 15-minute process, half meditation, half movement, that I'm guiding the whole time with really fun music. And at the end of all that, they just stand for a moment, and I say, okay, so how are you feeling right now? Notice your body. How are you feeling? What's going on in your body? How are you feeling? How are you feeling? And now go sit down in front of your device and put in the chat, how are you feeling? And the words come back, relaxed, balanced, energized, vital, restored, revitalized, peaceful. All these words, like, wow, their energy has shifted so much. And we do that every class. And I'm basically telling them, you can do this yourself. There was nothing magic about what I did. I led you through a little process with music. I led you through another process with music. You could be doing this yourself at any time. But before you ever try it, you're going to do it every single class. And that one exercise, I'm convinced, is a lot of why people get so much benefit out of the entire course. Because most people do not move in ways to do stuff like that. They're not doing that. It takes a weird guy like me who went through cancer and double hip replacement to say, it's really okay, guys. It's really okay. And it's not only okay, it's more than okay, because we are designed to move. We're not designed to be sedentary like this. And we are having to be more than ever. That's one of the hardest parts of the lockdown, is the sedentary, all the things we used to do for fun physically, and probably got to do for fun in the summer more. But that's shutting down, right? So how are you going to keep it alive? And so your energy just doesn't contract and get darker and darker with the winter and with it all. It's to move, guys. It's to move. Trust me. Do it. Try it. What's the worst that can happen? You will have wasted 7 minutes moving and getting your blood circulating. Actually, that doesn't sound like the worst. I think there's worse that could happen than that. So I'm encouraged. I'm coaxing people to expand their comfort zone, to try things that they may not have ever done, may seem weird, may seem awkward. I'm saying, I understand. A lot of this felt weird to me too. But just give it a shot. Just give it a shot. What if I'm right? What if I'm right?
Yeah. So you've already done this once before, haven't you, with one group, and the feedback's been really good, isn't it?
I've done it. No, I've done it with many groups.
Oh, many groups, is it? I know of one. Yeah.
Yeah, you know of one, because some of the folks I think in your group were part of that. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. But no, I've done it. I think now it's at least 11 or 12 groups online. Okay. And before that, many groups live. So it's very familiar. Is partly why I love it now. Is I'm more just the facilitator now. I'm just kind of complimenting people for that photo you think that you just apologized for. That was brilliant. I hear this all the time. People will be showing stuff and say, "Oh, this isn't very good." Say, what? No, you really think you're allowed to say that in this class? No, you can't say that. Because you're so much better than you think, and gradually you're gonna accept this. You're gonna believe me. He was really telling the truth. Yeah. So it's a fun. I love it because it's really why I love it is that I can watch the unfolding of people, but also there's a dynamic of the group, and I happen to know because of some of the people from Europe that are going to be from the UK that are going to be in the class. And some people here in the States that I know already that are in the class. It's going to be a really cool group, even if it was like super small for some reason. But just the 8 or 10 people that I know already that have registered for it, I'm like, wow, it's going to be an awesome group. The group itself becomes its own entity in a sense, because what happens is when you are seeing other people's attempts to be creative through photography, through their writing, through whatever that is, it's vulnerable moments. And people are sharing things of themselves, not necessarily super secret things, but they're just sharing the appreciation they have of their cat, or the appreciation they have of the birds that come to the bird feeder, or the appreciation they have for the utter glory of dew on the grass in the morning with the sunrise coming up. And we feel their joy in that, and it's touching. It's incredibly touching. And so our hearts open as other people are showing themselves. So there's this whole thing. I didn't realize this would happen when I was designing the course. It was the second cohort at Stanford, where as people were just sharing photos they had done as part of some homework, the class started applauding after everybody's photos. So everybody's applauding. This is cool. And I realized they were so energized by seeing each other's creativity on display, and they wanted to honor each other. They started the applause. I didn't say to do that. And I noticed they're forming like a family. They're like really loving each other. And none of them knew each other before the class started. They were all strangers to each other, which is what happens on Zoom too. But what you find out by about the second class, and then even more for the third, and even more in the fourth, you can't wait to see each other, because you're all going through this process of discovery of, he's right, I really have this creative energy and it's coming out, and I kind of always knew I did, or I used to, and I lost it. And wow, this is really good. This is really good. So I get to sit back and like, God, I'm the luckiest guy in the world to have a job like this. Other than that, I can't stand it. It's just really boring, and I get no joy at all. And
far from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. So do you have any final message for our members here?
Love.
Just love. Embrace it. When
I talk about creativity, a dear friend of mine, an Oscar-winning filmmaker, actually made the statement. Well, there's a famous Khalil Gibran statement: "Work is love made visible." Many people know that phrase. Work is love made visible. Well, my friend, the filmmaker, changed it by one word. He says, creativity is love made visible.
Yeah.
So creativity being an expression of love. It is. If you think about anything creative that that you do, you're enjoying that. You're loving that thing that you're doing. It could be knitting, it could be drawing, it could be singing, it could be anything. But there's a feeling, a kind of a loving feeling you have about that thing. That's why you want to keep doing it. I love doing that thing, even when it's hard. Some days you just, oh man, it's hard today, but you still want to do it. Keep doing it. So there is a love. Most people can identify. He's right. There's love involved there.
Yeah.
So creativity is love made visible. The love that we already have in our hearts has a chance to express through creativity. And that also means how we interact with each other. It's not just about painting, drawing, singing, dancing. That's not the definition of creativity. Creativity, again, means being in this moment, realizing I'm creating this moment. I'm creating this connection or not. So that's a way to manifest love, is to the creative expression of a moment. There you go.
There you are. You heard it.
You heard it here first. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
I'll wrap up now. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been a very, very interesting interview, and you've shared so much. And I wish you all the best with your program. I hope others here will sign up, because if you want to connect more to your creative nature and align more to love, that's the way to go.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Esther. This was a joy.
I appreciate this lovely time we spent together.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Anne.
Totally enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.